Come read with me. This is Violet, and I am reading from my second book, It Takes Two. A little bit me and a little bit you. This chapter is called The Mission, and this is Dell speaking. We finally went out on a mission. The mission was for our platoon to fly by helicopter to a designated village and set up an outpost or command post. Then we were to work recon patrols out of the command post. Actually, it was a company exercise, not a platoon exercise. The whole company went versus only one platoon. There are roughly 200 people in the company, 50 people in a platoon. So if the whole company goes, there are 200 people going. Whereas if a platoon goes, there are only 50 people that go. There were 4 platoons in a company. Approximately 50 people in a platoon, sometimes less but never more, depending on the availability of manpower. This particular mission was a whole company operation. We went to the helipads and they had 10 helicopters out there with 6 men to a helicopter. They had us all get into the helicopters and all 10 of them took off. It was called an eagle flight. We were helicoptered over to the designated village. They sat down and we got out. Then they went and got more troops and brought them in. They did this until we were all there. We got to the village and we were assigned a specific area to set up a perimeter and guard. We did that moving out through the village. We set up the perimeter with each platoon being given a certain section to guard. Each squad got a sector of that sector. Then, once everything was set up and our area was secure, the day was pretty well shot. So we sat there for the evening and pulled guard duty all night long. The next morning we went out on our first patrol. Every day after that we would go out on what they called sweeping recon patrols. Sometimes we would go out on a search and destroy mission. Sometimes we would just go out on a recon. A search and destroy mission is to search out the enemy and destroy them or their enemy fortifications. Whatever we came across, a recon is just to go out and see what is out there, if there are enemy troops in the area. We did those missions usually for 3 or 4 days. Then we would fly back to camp. While we were in the villages, the little kids would come around. They weren't the least bit afraid of GIs. They would beg for candy, sea rations, or other kinds of handouts they could get from us. Most of the GIs were very congenial and liked the kids. We were more than happy to give them candy bars, crackers, or jelly from our rations. Some of the GIs were not so congenial because they were afraid. They had heard stories of the kids coming into the area and tossing grenades into them. But personally, I never saw that happen on any of the missions I was on. I liked the kids and was more than happy to give them what I could afford to give them in the way of treats. As a result of this, we would gain their respect and their confidence in us. Up in this one village, with a road to another village, which was 2 miles away. We had been on this road many times. One day, when we were using the road, there was normally quite a bit of foot traffic and bicycles. Never any vehicles because the Vietnamese didn't own any vehicles, or they had given up their vehicles. On this particular occasion, as we started down the road, we noticed there was absolutely no traffic on the road. It was devoid of bicycles and people, no traffic at all. So we suspected that something was going to happen. Perhaps an ambush, or perhaps it was booby-trapped. We weren't sure which. This was a platoon-sized operation. We started down the road because we thought the center of the road might be booby-trapped, which is where we normally walked. Our platoon leader informed us that we should go down the side of the road instead. We were on both sides of the road. Part of us were on one side and the rest of us were on the other side of the road. We were all scattered out so that it would be hard to ambush 1 or 2 people at a time. We were moving along. One of the men, whose name is Bowers, stepped on a booby trap called a Bouncing Betty. As soon as he stepped off of it, it bounced into the air and blew his leg off. Pieces of scrap metal flew behind him and hit the machine gunner. He was carrying an M16 machine gun on his shoulder. The metal hit him in the neck, went through his neck and hit the machine gun feed plate, and then ricocheted off of that and went through the back of his neck, the whole time missing his jugular vein or any main arteries, but it left a couple of gaping holes in the side of his neck. Doc Brown went and patched up Bowers as best he could, stopped the bleeding, gave him a shot of morphine, and put a bandage and tourniquet on his leg and patched up the guy's neck. Then we called for a medevac helicopter to pick the guys up, but we couldn't get one right away. Our platoon leader called our battalion commander, who just happened to be flying in the area. He wasn't very well liked. When we were out on operations, he would fly around in his helicopter, direct the operations from 1,000 feet in the air. If things were getting really tough, he would sometimes drop grenades out of the helicopter on what he thought was the enemy. He wasn't very popular. It was thought by some that to further his own rank, he volunteered his own battalion for missions that weren't necessarily their responsibility. Now, this might not be true, but it was the general consensus. The lieutenant called the battalion commander, who was flying around in his helicopter. He said that we had a guy with his leg blown off and another guy with a hole in his neck, and we needed a medevac but couldn't get one. He asked him to bring his helicopter down and lift them up for us. His response was, "No, I can't do that." And then the platoon sergeant got on the phone and said, if you do not do that, sir, then we will shoot your helicopter down, and we mean to do that." We had rockets, and these are little collapsible rocket launchers that could be aimed at a helicopter and shoot it down quite easily. So the battalion commander finally conceded and to drop the helicopter down and pick up the 2 wounded men. But his helicopter was not a Huey, so it couldn't carry more than 3 men at a time. So he had to stay with the platoon while the pilot took the 2 wounded men to the base. Then came later and picked him up. We got the men dusted off, and then we had no more problems. No booby traps, and never was ambushed. As soon as the booby trap was exploded and the dust-off was effected, we continued our mission. Then the people began using the road again. We went on quite a few missions that way. One time we went out on a mission in this woodline jungle area, but it wasn't really a jungle. There were several rice paddies, and across the rice paddies there was another woodline. This was on January 10th, 1968. This was also a company operation. Our platoon was in the back of the column. I think headquarters platoon was in the lead. We got to the center of the rice paddy between the 2 wood lines and ran into an ambush. Let me take a pause here.